Today we're back with another video in our Lord of the Rings universe series. These videos will teach you everything you need to know about Middle-earth. In today's video, we'll discuss the origin of everything, the birth of Middle-earth. We'll cover the age of trees and first age of the sun, leading up to the Rings of Power series. So if you want to learn all this and more, sit back and get comfortable. I'm FreakMaster. I'll explain everything in a way that's easy to understand. These three ages are complex, especially the last one with its many characters. I'll skip over many names or just mention some had children without listing them all unless they're crucial to the plot. I'll focus on the key points to help you grasp the story. I'll summarize it in an understandable way, as Sidmar and Leon's book is truly one of the most difficult reads you'll come across. So, at the very beginning, there was absolute nothingness. There was nothing and no one. The only being that existed was Eru Ilúvatar, essentially God, whom we'll simply call Ilúvatar. Ilúvatar created the Ainur, who you can think of as his angels. Ilúvatar showed them a vision of what the world would be like. The Ainur saw what would happen and who'd be born, elves and the first men. Though unsure when or where they'd appear, they knew this world wasn't for Ainur but for elves and men. Then Ilúvatar created the world. It was no longer a vision, but a reality that was initially flat. Many Ainur stayed with Ilúvatar, but others traveled to the land to prepare it for the arrival of elves and men. These Ainur who descended were given two names, the Valar and the Maiar. The Valar were the highest ranked and most powerful, while the Maiar were their assistants. Among those who came down, the most powerful was Melkor, who had no intention of helping elves or men. His only goal was to rule them all and take over the world. The Valar, the most powerful, were 14 in total, but I won't name them all. I'll only mention the most important ones, as I've said before. These were Manwë, the king and Melkor's brother, Ulmo, Mandos, Orome, Aule, and his wife Yavanna. And the Maiar, though less powerful, were far more numerous. Melkor corrupted many of these Maiar who joined his cause. Among them, one stood out as the most powerful, Sauron. You might know him, the same Sauron who later becomes the Dark Lord. Melkor revealed his intentions to his followers. He declared this world would be theirs, with him ruling over all, and so began a war between the Valar and Melkor. Now, when I mention the Valar and Maiar, I'll just say the Valar for simplicity. This will include everyone to keep things clear. So now we have two sides, the Valar and Melkor. As the Valar built the world, Melkor gathered evil beings in Middle-earth, including Valros. Back then, darkness reigned supreme. No light, stars, sun, moon, nothing existed. So the Valar built two massive lamps, placing one on each side of the world to light up Middle-earth. But Melkor swiftly destroyed them. Whatever the Valar built, Melkor would demolish. Melkor built his fortress in the north, naming it Utumno. The Valar retreated to the far west, establishing their home known as Valinor. Yes, you heard right. Valinor from the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, as I mentioned before. It's the elven paradise where Bilbo and Frodo sailed at the end of the Lord of the Rings. Once in Valinor, Yavanna sang, and from the earth rose two giant, self-illuminating trees that lit up Valinor from end to end. This marked the birth of time, and from this point the counting of days began. This ends Middle-earth's origin and begins the Age of Trees. Aule created dwarves but couldn't give them life. Ilúvatar granted it, but left them sleeping until the first elves awoke. Meanwhile, Melkor built Angband, a second fortress to the west, commanded by Sauron. The Valar created stars, and the first elves appeared in Cuivianen. Melkor kidnapped some elves, corrupting them into the first orcs. This was their origin. The Valar waged war on Melkor to protect elves and destroyed Utumno. They captured Melkor, but Angband and Sauron remained hidden. Orome led the elves towards Valinor, a journey that took many years. They reached Beleriand's shores, where one of their three kings, Elgwë, vanished. Ingwe and Fingwe continued to Valinor, but some elves stayed to search for Elgwë. Elgwë reappeared, became Beleriand's elven king as Thingol, and wed Melian, Amaya. In Valinor, Fingwë's son Fëanor was born, but his wife died in childbirth. Fingwë remarried and had two more sons, Fingolfin and Finarfin. The elves under Fingwë and his descendants are known as the Noldor. Fëanor, the mightiest Noldor, crafted 3 self-illuminating gems called Silmarils. These Silmarils shone with the light of the 2 trees, even in utter darkness. After years, the Valar freed Melkor, believing he'd learned and repented. Melkor exploited this, corrupting the Noldor and turning them against the Valar. He also turned Fëanor against his brother Thingolfin, threatening his life. For this, the Valar banished him for several years. Melkor fled when discovered, but returned with a giant spider to destroy Valinor's light-giving trees. He then sought Fëanor, but couldn't find him. Instead, he found Fëanor's father, Fingwë, whom he murdered without hesitation. This was the first murder in history. Melkor then stole the 3 Silmarils and escaped. After Fingwë's death, Fëanor returned to Valinor and became king of the Noldor. They gave Melkor the name Morgoth. Fëanor, Thingolfin, and Finarfin had several children, totaling 15. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I won't name them all to avoid confusion. I'll only mention the most important ones. They sought revenge for Fingwë's death, attacking coastal elves to steal their ships. Then Mandos, one of the Valar, cursed them to be forever betrayed. All followed Fëanor, except Finarfin, who returned to Valinor with some Noldor. Fëanor took the ships, but space was limited, so they made a first trip to Beleriand. They left Fingolfin, the second brother, and others, promising to return. But that didn't happen. Upon reaching Beleriand, Fëanor burned all ships to prevent others from following. This was the curse's first betrayal. So Fingolfin, without ships, crossed the icy mountains to reach Beleriand. Fëanor caught the orcs, but after an initial victory, the Valrohag came to their rescue and killed Fëanor. Meanwhile, in Valinor, the Valar created the sun and moon. This marked the birth of the first men. That day ended the Age of Trees and began the first Age of the Sun. The first men appeared in Hildorian and spread across Middle-earth. Now let's review quickly, because the tough part's coming, and I don't want anyone lost. With Utubno destroyed, Morgoth hid in Asban with the Silmarils, and Sauron was there too. Initially, we had 3 elven kings, Elgwë, Ingwë, and Fingwë. Elgwë vanished, while the other 2 went to Valinor. When Elgwë reappeared, he changed his name to Thingol. He took refuge in Beleriand's forest fortress, and had one daughter, Luthien. Ingwë stayed in Valinor and lived a normal life. Fingwë had 3 sons, Fëanor, Thingolfin, and Finarfin. After Morgoth killed Fingwë, Fëanor became king. Seeking revenge, they slew elves for ships, earning Mandos's curse. Finarfin repented and returned, but his sons continued on. Fëanor and his followers sailed to Beleriand. Fëanor betrayed Thingolfin, burning ships, forcing him over icy peaks. And Morgoth slew Fëanor. Fingolfin crossed the icy mountains and reached Beleriand. Then Maedhros, Fëanor's eldest son and rightful heir, ceded the Noldor crown to Fingolfin, ashamed of abandoning them. Peace lasted 400 years, but Morgoth kept growing his army during this time. Some men who spread across Middle-earth arrived in Beleriand. Then Morgoth attacked all elven and human fortresses and settlements, and he utterly destroyed them. Morgoth stayed in Angband while Sauron took one of the elven fortresses. Fingolfin, who survived, rode to Angband to challenge Morgoth to single combat. Morgoth slew Fingolfin, making his son Fingon the new king of the Noldor. The elves continued establishing settlements and fortresses across Beleriand. And Fingon, now Noldor king, sent his son Gil-galad to the Havens. Remember the name Gil-galad. It's crucial in the Rings of Power series. All men in Beleriand died except Beren, who fled into Thingol's forest realm. That elf who got lost and changed his name. There, he fell in love with Thingol's only daughter. Thingol wouldn't let a mortal marry his heir. He demanded a Silmaril from Morgoth for his daughter's hand. An impossible task, really. Beren and Luthien, the princess, went to Angband. There, Luthien put everyone to sleep, even Morgoth. Beren stole a Silmaril, but Morgoth's wolf bit off his hand with it. Seeing this, Thingol allowed their marriage. They had a son, J.R.R, who later fathered Elwing. Lucien's dog killed the wolf but died from its wounds. Thingol finally got what he wanted, the Silmaril. Morgoth attacked the elven settlements, killing Thingol and his army. He hit the ports too. Survivors fled to Vala's Isle as orcs feared water. Among them was Gil-galad, now king of the Noldor. In these battles, all of Finarfin's children died except one. All perished, save for Galadriel. You might recognize her name. Yes, the same Galadriel from Lord of the Rings and the new series. Thingol asked dwarf craftsmen to make a necklace for the Silmaril. After making it, they murdered him to steal it. This led to a battle between elves and dwarves. Elves and dwarves slaughtered each other, and the elves reclaimed the Silmaril. Then other elves attacked those with the Silmaril, trying to take it, leading to more bloodshed. The Noldor elves kept betraying each other for years, as Mandos's curse foretold, and new elf generations arose. Elwing, J.R.'s daughter and Thingol's great-granddaughter, fled with the Silmaril. Turgon, Fingolfin's second son, had a daughter, Idril, who wed a human and bore Erendil. Eventually, Erendil and Elwing met and married. They had two sons, Elrond and Elros. I'm sure you recognize the first name. Yes, it's the Elrond from the movies, and we'll see him in the series too. Finally, the elves again sought the Vala's help, who came to their aid once more. They decimated Morgoth's army, and he was captured and imprisoned for good. The Noldor elves were finally forgiven and could return to Valinor if they wished. Many returned to Valinor, but others stayed in Middle-earth. Among them were Gil-galad, now king of the Noldor, Galadriel and Elrond. Being half elf, half man, Elrond could choose his race and pick the elves. His brother Elros, however, chose to be human. The Valar raised an island from the sea and named it Númenor. They gifted it to men for their help in the war against Morgoth, and Elros became the king of all these men. But throughout this time and all I've told you, one was never found. He remained hidden in the north of the world, Sauron. And here ends the first age of the sun. In the next video, I'll tell you about the second age and the series inspiration. So if you liked this video, share it, subscribe, leave a like, and see you next time.